That December evening in 2015, the IT team at NIC Bank was in high spirits. The holiday season was around the corner, and they were counting down the days to their well-deserved Christmas break. Laughter filled the office as they wrapped up their final tasks, already picturing the festive meals and time with family. Then, an email popped up. At first, it seemed like any other message, but as they read through it, the excitement drained from their faces. A tense silence fell over the room. Someone let out a low whistle. Others exchanged uneasy glances. Within minutes, their relaxed mood had vanished, replaced by cold urgency. The team rushed into an emergency meeting. Something was very, very wrong. The email was brief but chilling. A hacker had gained access to the bank's confidential customer data, and he wasn't bluffing. If you don't pay 6.2 million Kenyan shillings in Bitcoin, the message read, I'll leak everything. The IT team stared at the screen in disbelief. Their worst nightmare had just become a reality. Panic crept in. This wasn't just a technical glitch or a minor security breach. This was blackmail. And with sensitive customer information on the line, the bank had a tough choice to make: pay the ransom or risk a major scandal. Time was ticking, and the hacker wasn't giving them much of it. The demand for Bitcoin was not a coincidence. The hacker knew exactly what he was doing. By using cryptocurrency, he would be nearly impossible to trace. No paper trail, no bank transactions, no way for the cops to follow the money. The IT team barely had time to process what was happening before the bank's top executives were pulled into an emergency crisis meeting. Everyone assumed they were dealing with a sophisticated Russian hacker, the kind you see in movies, operating from a dark room, lines of code flashing on multiple screens, a ghost in the system. But as they dug deeper, what they discovered will shock them to the core. What the bank did not know was that their so-called Russian hacker was no more than a clever illusion. The only international thing about him was his IP address. Everything else, his name, his identity, even the very room he was sitting in when he sent that chilling email, was local. Right there along Thika Road, sipping his drink and probably grinning at his laptop screen, sat the mastermind. His name? Alex Mutungi Mutuku, a 100% Kenyan cybercriminal who had just put one of the country's top banks in a chokehold. At just 28 years old, Alex Mutungi Mutuku was no ordinary hacker. Soft-spoken, almost shy to those who met him, he didn't look like the kind of guy who will bring a whole bank to its knees. But behind that calm demeanor was a digital mastermind. When he wasn't indoors crafting lethal codes, he was outside chasing his other addiction, speed. His superbike, the second love of his life, roared through the streets, fueling his need for adrenaline. The same rush he got from outsmarting security systems he found in the wind slamming against his face as he tore through the highways. But this time, Alex had pushed his luck too far, and the chase was about to begin. Alex Mutungi Mutuku was born in Machakos in 1989, and from the very start, it was clear that he was not like other kids. He had a mind that worked faster than most, solving problems with ease, understanding things that others struggled with. A genius in the making. From his early days at primary school, he topped his class effortlessly. Teachers marveled at how quick he was, how sharp his thinking was. By the time he sat down for his KCSE at Kathiani High School, there was no doubt he was destined for greatness, and his results proved it. An A. The kind of grade that could open doors to any future he wanted. But the future Alex chose was one that no one saw coming. With his brilliant mind and top grades, Alex secured a spot at the University of Nairobi to pursue a degree in information technology. A dream come true. This wasn't just about academics. It was his ticket to the big leagues, a chance to master the world of computers and cybersecurity. But Nairobi wasn't just the city of dreams. It was also a city of temptations. And it was here, in the heart of the capital, that Alex met the man who would change his life forever. The one who pulled him into the dark world of cybercrime. His name was Calvin Otieno Ogalo, a former cop with a dark past. Once a trusted officer in the banking fraud unit, Calvin had seen it all. Hackers, cyber thieves, high-stake digital heists, but instead of stopping them, he started cutting deals with the very criminals he was meant to arrest. It didn't take long before he was caught, but Calvin wasn't the kind to stay down. If hackers could outsmart the system, why couldn't he? So, he taught himself IT, diving deep into the same tricks he once investigated. Then, destiny played its hand. One afternoon, during a hackathon workshop in Nairobi's CBD, Alex met Calvin, a young genius, a fallen cop. Two minds, one passion, hacking. At first, it seemed like an innocent request. After building trust over time, Calvin casually asked Alex for help with a school system assignment. Alex, being the good guy he was, didn't think much of it. He was always up for a challenge, and messing around with school databases sounded just like another coding puzzle. So, he helped Calvin out, a few tweaks here, a few numbers there. It was a small favor, nothing serious. But what Alex did not know was this wasn't just an assignment. It was a test, and by passing it, he had unknowingly taken his first step into the dark world, a world he will soon master. Calvin saw potential in Alex. He wasn't just another IT student. He was sharp, fast, and had a natural gift for coding. This was exactly the kind of mind that could thrive in the cybercrime world. He decided to take Alex under his wing to teach him the tricks of the trade. But there was one problem. Alex was still hesitant. The idea of stepping into something illegal made him uneasy. He wasn't ready to take the risk. Calvin understood. He had been in the game long enough to know that patience was key. So, he gave Alex time. And Alex used it wisely. He spent months perfecting his craft, sharpening his coding skills, and understanding system vulnerabilities. What started as simple curiosity turned into an obsession. It was only a matter of time before he would take the next step. Calvin waited patiently, knowing that sooner or later Alex would reach out with the words he wanted to hear, a sign that he was ready for the big league. But he had to wait 2 years. Alex wasn't the type to rush into things blindly. He wanted to test his skills first, to see how far he could push his abilities before taking the real leap. In 2013, he launched his first major project, a cyber attack on Nation Media Group. It wasn't about money or fame. It was about proving to himself that he had what it took, a trial run, a sign of things to come. After the successful breach of Nation Media Group, Alex retreated into his zone, fueled by a newfound confidence. He had tested his skills, and the results were clear. He was ready for something bigger. This time, it wouldn't just be about proving a point. This time, there had to be money on the table, and for that, he needed a high-stakes target. His eyes locked onto Safaricom, the giant of Kenya's telecom industry, a company handling billions in mobile transactions every day. This wasn't just another hack. This was a heist. And for it to work, he needed to craft something lethal. Supercodes that could slip past Safaricom's defenses undetected. After months of meticulous planning, February 24, 2015 became the day Alex made his move. From the comfort of his crib, armed with nothing but his laptop and his lethal codes, he struck Safaricom's convergent billing system, the very core of its financial operations. With precise execution, he loaded airtime worth 3.7 million Kenyan shillings into a set of carefully chosen phone numbers, all under his control. Then came the next step, liquidation. He resold the airtime at discounted rates, turning stolen digital credits into cold hard cash. It was quick, clean, and profitable. Good business. And just like that, Alex had officially entered the big league. With millions in stolen airtime and a flawless execution under his belt, Alex felt unstoppable. The Safaricom heist had proven what he already suspected. He was ready for something bigger. His moment had come. Without hesitation, he picked up his phone and called the one man who had been waiting for this day. Calvin. He had just 2 words for him. "I'm ready." Calvin did not hesitate. He welcomed Alex with open arms, knowing he had just added a powerful asset to his team. And just like that, Alex became an official member of the Fork Bombo Gang, Kenya's most feared cybercrime syndicate. The Fork Bombo Gang had a simple but deadly strategy: infiltrate banks from the inside. They didn't break in with guns. Instead, they teamed up with rogue bank employees, planting their infamous malware inside the bank's computer systems. Once the software was in, the gang could manipulate transactions, siphoning money without triggering alarms. In August 2015, they made their first big move. Their target? NIC Bank. With everything carefully set in place, the gang executed the heist from behind the screens, draining 2.88 million Kenyan shillings straight from the bank's head office. It was a smooth operation. No broken vaults, no security chases, just codes doing their dirty work. And this was only the beginning. The NIC Bank heist was a success, and for Alex, it was a sign to push the limits even further. With the gang having already breached the bank's systems, he saw an opportunity for a second payday, but this time through blackmail. On December 18, 2015, as the NIC Bank IT team was winding down for the holidays, Alex sent them an email that froze them in their tracks. He demanded 6.2 million Kenyan shillings in exchange for his silence, threatening to expose the confidential data they had accessed. But this time, the bank refused to play along. Instead of paying, they called the cops. And just like that, the hunter had unknowingly become the hunted. The cops were on high alert, determined to track down the Fork Bombo Gang, but they quickly realized they were dealing with ghosts. The gang had insulated themselves so well that there was no clear trail leading back to them. Their attacks were executed remotely, their identities hidden behind layers of fake IP addresses, encrypted communication, and rogue insiders. With law enforcement struggling to keep up, the gang kept moving. In 2016, they escalated their operations, perfecting their salami attacks, a method where they stole tiny amounts repeatedly, making it harder to detect. Their most lucrative hit that year was on Kitui IFMIS, the county's financial management system. Millions vanished from government accounts, siphoned through carefully orchestrated digital breaches. The heist sent shockwaves through the system, but once again, the Fork Bombo Gang was untouchable. With millions in his pockets, Alex felt unstoppable. Money had a way of shifting perspectives, and for him, it unlocked a new level of wisdom, one he proudly shared through motivational quotes on Facebook. The very dreams he once thought would take years to achieve were now within reach, and he wasn't about to wait. While most Kenyans were struggling through the dreaded January, tightening their belts after holiday spending, Alex was living his best life. He set off on an East African tour, hopping from city to city, experiencing the luxuries he had always dreamed of. But being the genius he was, he knew better than to flash sudden wealth. To avoid suspicion, he moved discreetly, using public transport instead of flashy private cars, blending in like an ordinary traveler. He had the money, he had the brains, and as far as he was concerned, life had never been better. After an unforgettable East African tour, the Folk Bombo gang returned home, feeling invincible. With banks and county systems already under their belt, they set their sights on something bigger: government institutions. It was a bold move, but also a reckless one that would eventually be their downfall. Their first target? NTSA, the National Transport and Safety Authority. Using their expertise, they breached the agency's website, manipulating the system to approve number plate allocations for businessmen at a price. For those willing to pay, the gang made impossible registrations possible. It was easy money, flowing fast. But what they didn't realize was that, unlike private banks, messing with the government came with consequences. And soon, the walls would start closing in. NTSA hack had been a success, and with confidence at an all-time high, the Folk Bombo gang decided to push their limits even further. The next target? The Kenya Revenue Authority. The plan was simple but dangerous. Help unscrupulous businessmen register imported vehicles for local use without paying the required taxes. For a hefty fee, they could bypass the system, making vehicles appear as if they had cleared all duties, saving corrupt importers millions while pocketing a fortune for themselves. It seemed like the ultimate jackpot, but in reality, it was the beginning of their downfall. Unlike banks and county offices, KRA wasn't just another institution. It was the government's revenue backbone. By tampering with it, they had unknowingly declared war on the state. And this time, the system was ready to fight back. With KRA locked in their crosshairs, the Folk Bombo gang made their boldest move yet. They installed malware into the Revenue Authority's system, embedding it deep within the institution's network. This wasn't just a simple breach. They took full control. From their laptops, they now had access to KRA's international computers, databases, and financial transactions. And with that power, they executed one of the biggest cyber heists in Kenyan history. Over time, they siphoned hundreds of millions, discreetly manipulating tax records and financial data, stealing a total of 4 billion Kenyan shillings. It was their biggest payday yet. But what they didn't realize was that with every stolen shilling, they were sealing their fate. News of the 4 billion Kenyan shilling cyber heist sent shockwaves across Kenya. They thought that the taxman, one of the most powerful government institutions, had been infiltrated and drained of billions, left the country in disbelief. How could this happen? Who was behind it? Speculation ran wild, but nothing could prepare Kenyans for the biggest shock of all: the arrest of Alex Mutungi Mutuku in 2017. When authorities finally unmasked one of the masterminds, no one could believe it. A 28-year-old tech genius, soft-spoken and unassuming, had pulled off one of the boldest cybercrimes in the country's history. He wasn't a foreign hacker. He wasn't an old-school fraudster. He was 100% Kenyan, a young man who had outsmarted an entire government institution. And now his time had run out. Despite the massive losses, KRA failed to pin Alex down. Their biggest hope was to compel Google to release his personal details, believing it would expose his tracks. But that battle was lost. Without solid evidence linking him directly to the cyber heist, Alex Mutungi Mutuku walked away scot-free. To this day, he remains a free man, a ghost in the system, untouchable. His mentor, however, was not as lucky. Calvin Otieno Ogalo, the man who had introduced Alex to the dark world of cybercrime, found himself on the wrong side of fate. During a police raid on his house, he was caught hacking into KRA servers. But that was not the worst part. Inside his Mercedes-Benz, police allegedly discovered cocaine, an accusation Calvin vehemently denied, insisting that the drugs were planted. It didn't matter. With both cybercrime and drug charges stacked against him, Calvin was sentenced to 7 years in prison. One walked free, the other paid the price. The Fok Bombo gang had finally fallen.